Everyone's so excited about crypto, but the hardest thing is actually selling crypto. When do you exit? When is the market overheated? I just sat down with Levi. I'll leave him linked underneath the video. He's another huge crypto OG influencer investor. And I sat down with him and we talked about our exit plans, what we're planning to sell, and when. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. I have the full version of this video over on my Telegram. You can check it out underneath the video. And if you want to trade crypto, there's a link to BY underneath the video. You can start trading in just a few minutes. You don't need a KYC. You don't need a VPN. There are also links to BTCC and BTCC, BLOFIN, WEEX underneath the video as well. They all give different bonuses and have different UIs and different trading functions, but you can check this out underneath the video. Now let's get into the video. You mentioned taking profits, DCing in or getting out. How and when do you plan on taking profits this cycle? It would be a mic drop moment if you're like, I already sold all of it or something. But
Yeah, I'm out, guys. This is my announcement. No, can you imagine? So that's a great question. And I think that like this is something that really depends heavily. And what I'm looking at, this is what I'm doing, is I'm just looking at the Federal Reserve's policy, right? And so what I've learned is the global M2 supply, like basically the global money supply, has a really strong correlation with the price of digital assets like cryptocurrency. It has a 90% correlation with a 3-month lag on Bitcoin, and same with XRP, 90%. And it's a 99% correlation with the stock market, right? So it's even much higher with the stock market. So I'm just kind of looking at the data, I'm looking at the facts, and I'm basing my decision on that, right? Basically, when the Fed has lowered rates as much as they're going to lower them, and they're starting to change their policy to look to start doing quantitative tightening as opposed to easing, they're starting to raise rates. That's when I'm going to start dollar cost averaging out. You look at like the historical examples of every single time previously that the Fed has started doing that and money supply has started going down, or I'll also be looking at M2 when M2 starts going down. That's when I start basically. And so what I know right now is that the policy is really strongly geared towards easing, especially in the United States of America, which is currently still the world reserve currency. I see no point to start dollar cost averaging out at this moment. But when I notice that starts to shift, I'm definitely going to start that consideration for sure. How about for you? What do you think?
yeah, so that's first of all, I think that's interesting because that is like that's far away in my mind. Like it feels far away at least because we're in crypto, but like like the Fed hasn't cut rates yet. I guess they did it like one time last or at the beginning of this year or last year or something. But like
it's 24. Yeah,
you're almost waiting for like there to be another big issue that causes us to raise rates, which is pretty rare, but like something economically that forces them to bump up rates. So you could be looking at like a year or two almost.
I could be. And honestly, like if I just like, I guess like my biggest thing is like once those rate cuts start to happen, I'm going to start considering it more and more, right? Because I know the capital is going to flow in and I know we're going to probably peak around that time. And so that's what I'm going to be paying very close attention to M2, right? I'm just going to be like laser focused on that metric. And, you know, it's going to take a lot of, time to make that decision, but I'm going to make it eventually. I would say like the way that things are looking right now, it's definitely going to take some time just because the Fed is really dragging their feet while other countries are cutting rates very aggressively, like Europe and China, for example. Now, this is another thing, right? It's not just the US that matters. It's also Europe and China. If Europe and China start raising rates, okay, I'm going to start taking that into consideration, right? It's not just the US because we have big players in the space. Europe's multi-trillion economy, obviously. China, same. Right? They're huge. They're going to have big impacts on the market. They've already been very helpful in helping us get to where we are right now with rate cuts. So I'm also going to be looking at that too. So that will play a part. It might not be quite like 2 years, might be 1 year, right? We'll see what happens with those guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. US centric investor here, but obviously so many countries have been dropping rates more aggressively than the US.
Yes.
This is something that I look at because you asked me. This is the Bitcoin spiral chart for everyone that has never seen it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's very confusing because time goes around in a circle. Each circle, this yellow, is 4 years. So it shows you cycles and shows you like this is 2013, 2017, 2021, and 2025. And this is the second half of the year. Every one of the last 3 cycles, we've topped this half of the year, almost
Right.
at
Yeah.
the exact same time. So like October, November, December, we peaked. And then we almost bottom within a couple months of each other too. Like 1 year after when we peak, we bottom. So I, I'm not basing everything off the past because everything always changes, right? We start hitting new peaks earlier this cycle.
Yeah.
So some people might say, oh, well, we will top out even earlier. But with what's happening with the Fed and with what's happening with the stock market, like I don't see us crashing like we've seen in the past, like I said before. So I don't really want to sell Bitcoin unless we get to some level that is just kind of absurd. Like it, and it's not absurd for the long-term view, but like if we went up to 350,000 or even 300,000 or something like that relatively soon, I'd take some profits off the table just because that's that's significant life-changing money. It's going to throw off my portfolio a lot. But what I'm more likely to do is sell alts. So if we continue to pump, let's say Bitcoin's at 150 and XRP's at $7 and like Ethereum's at, I don't know, $6,000 or something, I'm going to sell my alts. I want to sell all my alts this cycle. And I'll do a mixture of selling the spot bags of alts. And I do have some ETFs too, some like Ethereum ETFs and stuff. And then I'll be trimming my levered positions. I've done that once or twice just to pull out initial. But that's kind of what I'm looking at, just because, you know, I'm going to be kicking myself and I'm like, oh, the last 3 cycles, we've always peaked out. We have everything pumping 20% a day for 3 days in a row. Like, I'm going to take some profits off the table, and I fully expect to be wrong. Like, I know that I'll be wrong, and I want us to keep pumping afterwards. And I'm okay with that. That's just how it goes. Like, you can't jump out at the peak.
Yeah. You'll never time it perfectly. That's 100% for sure. I mean, look at like Warren Buffett and how he's treated every single previous bull and bear cycle. What he does is like he never times the peak perfectly, but he's consistently taking money out when the market is getting unreasonable, and he's consistently putting money in when the market is like basically on a fire sale, right? And because he's done that consistently every single bull run for like the last, I don't know, like 50, 60 years, whatever, how long he's been doing his business for, right? He has literally made hundreds of billions of dollars for his investors. Like, it's just an insane amount of money. And so like, you don't need to time the top perfectly. You just need to be taking money out gradually during the bull and putting money in gradually during the bear. It's really that simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. If you're one of those people that like are perfectly trying to time the top, like I want to sell Bitcoin at exactly $200,000, perfect market top, you're probably not going to actually sell there, because it might hit 198, and then you didn't hit your 200,000. You're like, oh, I'm going to hold, and then next thing you know, Bitcoin's back below $100,000, right? And then you're just holding for the entire bear market. You don't want to be one of those people, right? For sure. So I 100% agree with your thought process on that. Like, if you're actually in this to make money, and you know you're looking at strategies that actually have worked, yeah, that 100% is a strategy that has worked for sure. And I do think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, and it's always better to have a little bit of extra cash than too little cash. Like, I know people say cash is trash, but it is a good feeling to be like stacked and then still have skin in the game and still have your net worth hitting new all-time highs, and then you're protected on the downside. And maybe then you do buy real estate or stocks or something that's maybe a little bit less overheated, because there will be dips. Like, there will always be a 30-40% dip in Bitcoin, a 50% dip in XRP. Like, that's going to happen because these move up so quickly that people get freaked out, or leverage gets triggered or something. So you're going to have opportunities. I think that was one thing that I did poorly in the past, is like I felt like I needed to get in on stuff because it was like fleeting, but there's always going to be an opportunity where you can put money in the future.
For sure. Like, everything works in cycles, right? Like, you know, if tech stocks are doing bad, maybe like certain commodity based stocks are doing well, you know, like everything's working in tandem, and like one thing's up, other thing's down. There's always an opportunity. And like, honestly, like you like, I think the best way to learn is just to study the greats, the people that have consistently over their entire career actually made a lot of money, and look at like what they're doing. You know, what a lot of these guys are doing, for example, like you look at like, I don't know, like Bill Gates, for example, you know, he'll sell a lot of like tech stocks during a huge cycle like what we're seeing right now, and then he just goes and buys a crap ton of farmland with it, right? and like, then he might sell that farmland and buy tech stocks when he feels like they've bottomed out. That's what like his financial managers are basically doing. And it's a great strategy, right? It works really well. They're making billions of dollars doing it. So obviously something's going right. And maybe you don't agree with Bill Gates and what he's doing, but you know, you can still learn something from it at the same time, right?